having fun at the Stanislaus Fair.
It's fun.
It's fun.
Really fun.
Super great.
The Stanislaus County Fair has plenty to offer, from great food to entertainment, exhibits to thrilling rides. Over the many years, there has been one common factor that has held everything together, and that is the overwhelming support and participation from the community.
Livestock is certainly important. Agriculture is important. The jams and jellies are important, but the carnival is important. It's where people go to see their community, to meet friends. It's a family. It's a family gathering to a great extent. The number of people that talk about having come here for 30, 40, 50 years, you don't see that in a lot of communities. Whether it's somebody of a certain age like Jim or somebody who's in their 20s, this is where they come. You go to the fair during the summer because that's your sense of community. That's your sense of belonging, and I think that's the most important part. You can rate all the different aspects and the different parts of the fair as being your favorite or the most important, but the sense of community, I think, is really what puts it all together.
The fair's early beginnings all started in Modesto in the year of 1891, with the first annual fair of the Stanislaus County Agricultural District No. 38. This fair was held for several years but was later discontinued in 1902 and marked the last fair in Modesto. Almost 10 years had passed before the introduction of Turlock's first ever Melon Carnival, which was held in 1911. It was this carnival that the Stanislaus County Fair, as we know it today, attributes its start. At the time, Turlock had become known for its budding melon growing and shipping businesses, and therefore the Melon Carnival was organized to promote trade and public relations for the community. Held on Main Street in downtown Turlock, the carnival was famous for the watermelons that were donated by farmers and served free for everyone to enjoy. The carnival was not held the year the U.S. entered World War I in 1917 and would not return until the end of the war. In 1925, the first Melon Carnival to be sponsored by the American Legion was held, and soon after, in 1927, the carnival acquired a 7-acre plot of ground as a permanent location. 2 years later, in 1929, the fairground's ever-present archgate was constructed. Local lore says there may be something hidden in the pillars of Stanislaus County Fairground's historic archgate, placed by the construction workers and Legion members. However, many community members thought otherwise. On April 16, 2011, a time capsule unveiling ceremony was held and fair staff opened the pillars in front of community members. Each pillar had a jar with names written on scrolls from the American Legion members and Lady Auxiliary some 82 years ago. In 1935, the Stanislaus District Fair succeeded the Melon Carnivals, and the first annual fair horse show was held along with the first Kitty Capers Parade, which was always a highlight for local community. Youth from Turlock showed off their costumes, and community clubs and businesses showcased their floats as they all paraded through downtown Turlock. In 1937, a nearby ranch was purchased to add to the 7-acre field, and in 1939, the District Agriculture Association assumed sole responsibility for the operation of the fair from the American Legion. Additional land was purchased to grow the grounds to a total of 37 acres, and in 1941, the name Stanislaus District Fair was used for the first time, and attendance reached over 31,000 people.
What I think's neat about a fair is that it really does have kind of something for everyone. And that's one of the neat things when I go to the fair today. You see people of all ages, from infants and strollers to very elderly people. And a lot of them are there for different reasons. But that is the neat thing about the fair, is that it really does have something for everyone.
In 1942, the fair was canceled due to the outbreak of World War II. Japanese Americans were stationed at the fairgrounds for 3.5 months before being evacuated to inland areas of the United States. For the remainder of the war, the grounds were used by the Army as a rehabilitation center. An annual carnival was still held downtown from 1942 to 1944 and sponsored by a citizens committee for the purpose of aiding wartime relief. In 1946, following the conclusion of the war, the fair resumed with over 46,000 attendees, and the fair managers announced that the fair facilities were to be available year-round.
We really are a business. We're a strong economic engine for Stanislaus County. We represent $22 to $25 million in economic impact, and it's not just the 10-day fair. We've got one of the largest Model A swap meets in North America out here in January, where we've got huge corporate meetings. We really need to run like a business.
The grandstands in the arena were constructed in 1953, and 3 years later, in 1956, the present name Stanislaus County Fair was officially used for the first time. In 1957, a roller rink opened in the Arts and Crafts Building, and in 1959, to honor the new state of Hawaii, the fair featured a Hawaiian theme and entertainers were flown in directly from Hawaii for special performances. Classes for the newly established Stanislaus State College began on the Stanislaus County Fairgrounds in September 1960. The college moved to its current location 5 years later and was awarded university status.
My dad was the first president of what was Stanislaus State College, today it's CSU Stanislaus. And my dad's office, I remember, was in one of the main exhibit halls, and so I would visit him there. And what would happen in the summer is the college would have to pack up everything, files and books and furniture and everything else, and move out to make way for the fair. So as kids, the kids of the faculty and the staff, we would actually help load things up and move boxes and things like that. So I remember that, and then I would remember going to the fair, and I would go into what was my dad's office building, and it was filled with the Grange exhibits and a lot of the other things in the exhibit hall. My other favorite memory was at the end of the fair when we would move the college back in. The college library was in one of the 4-H buildings. And so you would come in September, and that kind of last burst of heat in the summer, and you'd be in the college library, and it would still kind of have a little bit of a scent of rabbits and some of the other little critters that the 4-H kids would have raised and would have exhibited at the fair. The other thing that being there for the full week as an adult really helped me understand was how important the fair is to individuals, to the agricultural industry, to the community of Turlock, and to our entire county.
In 1960, the Floriculture Building was completed, and in 1965, the first livestock auction was held to replace the Oakdale Fat Stock Sale. In the early 70s, the fair was growing in both attendance and popularity among the community and neighboring cities. In 1971, attendance reached nearly 120,000 people in its 6-day run, and in 1975, the fair expanded to 7 days to accommodate the community's ever-growing desire for more fair fun. Not soon thereafter, in 1981, the fair expanded yet again to 9 days, and in 1989, a fair attendance record was made when over 260,000 people attended to experience the greatness of the Stanislaus County Fair, as it had become a yearly tradition for many families over the decades. The fair expanded to its current 10-day length by 1994. In 1999, the Stanislaus County Fair Board of Directors, with support of the Turlock American Legion, decided that the Stanislaus County Fair Arch Gate was to be recognized as a California State Point of Historical Interest. A marker was unveiled at the opening night ceremony during the 1999 fair and is on public view just inside the historic Arch Gate.
We won't see it ourselves, but God willing that we'll still have this to show our ancestors and your ancestors in years to come. And they can look back and see the pictures that we have. Maybe I'll just kind of rest up there and think back 100 years from now and see what you're going to do with it.
Prior to the 2010 fair, a dedication ceremony was held honoring the Japanese Americans involved in the Turlock Assembly Center of 1941, and a memorial was erected near the Floriculture Building. Over the years, there have been many uses of the fairgrounds facilities, from the Army Rehabilitation Center to the temporary campus of the California State University Stanislaus. With humble beginnings as a circus tent on a 7-acre location, has grown into a multi-facility 72-acre residence, and the fair doesn't plan to stop its ever-evolving nature while holding true to its community roots.
They need to maintain relevance. I think that's the most important aspect of what fairs are going to do if they're going to become and remain important to their community. History is a huge part of what we do out here, especially celebrating our Centennial. And I think a lot of fairs put a lot of emphasis on history, but they don't put a lot of emphasis on relevance. And history is important, but as Jim said a little bit earlier, we also need to talk about the future. Fairs originally were showcases for new product. The electric light bulb, the Ferris wheel, the telephone, the ice cream cone, all were showcased at fairs, world fairs, state fairs throughout the United States. And I think we've lost a little bit of that. I think a lot of fairs do the same thing over and over and over again because it's pretty easy to do. And it's fun, and there's certain components that are traditional, and that's great. But I think we need to continue to tell the story of agriculture, not just from the standpoint of here are animals, but here's how your food is processed, here's how food is produced. You know, most of us are 2 and 3 generations removed from farms. So it's even more important to talk about the role that agriculture plays. And I think we talk about that a lot, but what separates Stanislaus County is we talk the talk and we walk the walk as well. So I think the single most important thing to me is going to be have fairs maintaining relevance, and that includes showcasing technology, showcasing new food products, showcasing the best of entertainment. Fairs are showcases for their community, and so it's going to be individual, community to community, but relevance is going to be incredibly important.
The Stanislaus County Fair has seen many changes in its magnificent 100 years, but one thing remains the same, and that's the strong support and dedication from its community.